Yeah, no, there's definitely an element of, they're on the main stage. I was in the second, third row. It's kind of fanboying out to people you see on TV and opinions that matter, and they communicate and educate in an interesting way. So, yeah, whether it's Kathy Wood, whether it's Tom Lee, these are folks that are running billions in assets. You rarely get to see them, outside of TV. So for them to be at a conference like this, it's the access to some of those names and minds that I think is critical.
If you're not at a future-proof conference or a future-proof like conference and you're a wealth manager, a advisor, or an RIA, then you are going to be left behind when it comes to operating your business. Welcome everybody to a special episode of Inside the Flows. I'm your host, Iyassu, and I'm here with special guest, Inflows contributor, Nisheet Patel. Morning, Nisheet.
Morning, happy Friday, Iyassu. You seem to be you didn't bring your voice to this podcast today, huh?
Definitely did not.
Left it at Future Proof in Miami.
I left it all at Future Proof, man. It was
nice.
It was
we had a good time. That was again, we amped up this conference beforehand. I think it was productive. It was fun. It was good reconnecting with so many folks. I'm glad I had a chance to meet new folks alongside you and pumping up Inflows. So I thought it was a really good conference.
Yeah, totally agree with you. There was a lot of energy, a lot of good positive vibes, a lot of connecting. Old friends, new friends were made. And I don't know about you, but I had a lot of breakthrough meetings. And I think it was about 24 of them. So hence why my voice is shot right now. I'm not used to talking that much.
No, definitely. I didn't have as many as you. And for sure, in that tent, you're kind of like screaming in a good way at everybody. It's so full and so much buzz. But yeah, the breakthroughs are awesome. I think to each person, like when we talked about Inflows and the idea, like people embraced it, liked it. So good conversations, a lot of innovative ideas out there in fintech. So all good stuff.
I think for our audience members that are sort of new to the space and aren't advisors, or even the advisors that have never heard of Future Proof, do you want to just give a quick summary of what the breakthrough meetings are and what Future Proof hopes to accomplish?
No, for sure. So Future Proof, I believe, has been around like 5 or 6 years, always out in Huntington Beach. The last 2 years, they've added an East Coast version down on Miami Beach. And the whole concept of it is not even a conference, right? They build it as like the first and only wealth management festival. And on purpose, all the booths, all the general sessions, all these breakthrough meetings, which I'll touch on, it all happens literally on the beach. So folks are in shorts, flip-flops, sneakers, no shirts and ties, no casual, no coats. And the idea of the whole premise is let's make this approachable. Wealth management, we have we do a lot for our advisors and clients. There's a lot of different conferences with different themes, but this one is like, hey, be on the beach. Let's make sure all the barriers to communication and networking are down, and it's easier to meet people and talk and just have fun. So this concept of a breakthrough meeting, it's essentially like speed dating. So we're filling out our profile, the companies we're representing, what we're interested in, why we're there. The conference organizers then use all that data to match people up, and then you accept the invites. But you've got these 15-minute speed dating tables. There's hundreds of little tables, and you go to you might be at table 214, and then 15 minutes later, you got to go find table 367. And it's 15 minutes. They announce that you're done. You move on to the next one. There's blocks of them. So you're usually doing like 4 or 6 at a time throughout the day. There's time actually carved out on the agenda, which I think is great. So you're not missing out on main stage or asset managers or fintechs you want to meet with. So they do everything they can to really not just influence a casual, energetic atmosphere, but then create this infrastructure in the agenda to make sure that networking happens. And it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, even the layout of the conference is designed for meeting people and talking to people. There's pathways that are built from the breakthrough meeting tents to the sponsor booths to the AI tech hub spotting, and each way is designed so that you can just pop into a booth and just start chatting with somebody. and that's very much encouraged. So I know the sponsors love that. They're not stuck in some corner at some convention center and hidden, they're out there and about and talking with folks who are potentially, their existing clients or even new clients. And yeah, that's they really did crack the code on how to set a good a modern day conference in the 2020s.
Yeah, no, it was great. And yeah, to that point, they think of everything, right? So even on the beach, there's water stations, there's food trucks, there's ice cream, um, everything you need, and it's a beautiful backdrop atmosphere. And looking forward to the next one in out your way in September.
Yeah. Do you find any interesting speaking sessions, or did you catch any current themes that were going on at this Future Proof? Like, what did you think of this conference?
Yeah, I think for this, on the agenda, there's a lot of big speakers, a lot of CNBC kind of type representation there. So I think one of the main stages that I appreciated was on Tuesday morning. We had Tom Lee from Fundstrat talking about just crypto, the markets in general, being moderated by CNBC Scott Wapner. Always enjoy those guys when they're on TV, on regular CNBC as I'm watching now, but also just at the conference. I think the immediacy of the markets, what happened like literally that morning, hearing it live at the conference is always informative and fun. And then even the folks that I was able to meet during these breakthrough meetings, there's some. It's not just a traditional, hey, here's a yeah, a large cap core equity idea. There are those when you want to reconnect with those types of folks, but there's a lot of innovative things around technology, around independent advisors, and the tech stack that they're using. AI for sure, crypto for sure. So, yeah, a lot of new ways of doing business and young companies to talk to, and that part of it was kind of fun.
Yeah, the name of the conference is, indicative of what they're trying to accomplish for the wealth managers and the advisors. They're trying to help them future proof their business. That's where they got the name from. And so you have all these, vendors and service providers and asset managers out there that can offer, something that maybe they don't the wealth managers and the RAs and the financial planners don't have, and it's an easy way to get to know really quickly, what do you do? How do you do it? And more importantly, how much do you charge? Right. I think my favorite session was the Kathy Woods one. So Kathy Woods manages ARC, and she was upstage, and she's kind of a rock star, to be honest. And she has that presence, and she was talking a lot about the performance of the funds and why clients are attracted to what they offer and how they're constantly thinking about the future, which is really cool to see in person. I see her on TV all the time, like you see the CNBC hosts, and to see them in person, 15 feet away, you're like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an element of they're on the main stage. I was in the second, third row. It's kind of fanboying out to people you see on TV and opinions that matter, and they communicate and educate in interesting ways. Yeah, whether it's Kathy Wood, whether it's Tom Lee, these are folks that are running billions in assets. You rarely get to see them, outside of TV. So for them to be at a conference like this, it's the access to some of those names and minds that I think is critical.
Yeah, I think one of the themes that I picked up on this year through the breakthrough meeting. So I met with almost exclusively advisors, planners, and RAs slash wealth managers. And the theme that I picked up on was, what is everyone else doing? And so most, I don't know if folks understand this, but RAs, advisors, planners are really just small business owners, and they are on islands of their own, just trying to figure things out. And it's starting to dawn on them, thanks to this Future Proof conference, that they can ask other owners and operators, what did they do during situations? And that's super valuable. So a lot of the questions that I got was, first of all, like, what's inflows? Like, what do you do? And what are you trying to sell me? And the answer was, well, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to get you to join the platform and, leverage the collective knowledge of other RAs and wealth managers and financial advisory users. And then their eyes perk up, and they would ask, okay, so what's happening? What's going on? What's the themes? And, I tell them what I'm hearing, whether it's M&A or, uh, AI tech stacks, or trying to find a divorce lawyer out in Georgia, right? And so that was like the theme that I picked up on this year is what is everybody else doing?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you remind me of something I saw on LinkedIn. So Josh Brown, who's one of the founders of Future Proof, uh, he did a little video, and through that breakthrough meeting tent, he captioned it as a "This is what LinkedIn would look like if it was in person." And essentially, you could replace that with inflows, right? Like everything that happened in that breakthrough event tent with the advisors talking to each other, talking to you, talking to me. It's like that's what Inflows is all about: getting on a community platform to talk to your peers. From my perspective, just my background being wealth platforms, most of my breakthrough meetings were with fintechs, and the theme I saw was, "Hey, these new companies are trying to empower advisors. Let's see how we can use the data that's already there and make things more efficient, more creative for advisors and their branches, and especially for RAs that we've talked about it before. They don't have armies of back office. They don't have armies of operations. Some of these applications and some improvements to tech stack can go a long way. So it's an important time, and I think conferences like this kind of bring those two groups together. So it makes sense.
Did you ever stop by the DeepVest booth?
I did not. No.
All right, so DeepVest is one of these new AI powered tech platforms, and one of the things that they offer is agentic CIOs. So think of it as like
Mm,
agentic portfolio managers. And so you hear about, and for folks that don't know what a agentic portfolio manager is, think of it as an AI individual who's making decisions on how to allocate capital in a portfolio. So if the portfolio is, just, US stocks, they're going to be figuring out, do I buy Target? Do I, sell Google? But the AI model is going to be doing it, not a human being. And with the AI, the agentic CIO, they're doing much more on asset allocation. They're thinking of taxes. They're thinking of, sell side research that they would plug into to make these decisions. So it's an agentic chief investment officer for firms who are of the smaller RIAs, but not so small that they're an individual, planning everything. So they have a little bit of back office support, maybe through a third party or whatnot. Maybe they have an outside chief investment officer that helps them out. Maybe they have one portfolio manager in the team. Something that DeepVest offers is a way for a very, very good price how to get that access the much, much, much bigger RAs have, right? But instead, it's with an AI solution instead of having to hire, a bunch of people to do it. So I always hear about agentic portfolio management at the like theory level, but this time you can actually see it in action.
no, that sounds cool, and it's exactly what we talked about with AI. This is targeting not so much the advisors that are the asset managers, but the asset gatherers, right? So if you're an advisor that your superpower is connecting with your clients, financial planning, building that relationship, instead of hiring CFPs and instead of buying research packages, you can go to someone like DeepVest and outsource some of that without replacing, the key advisor relationship with the client. So I feel like we're going to see more of that, but that's really cool to see that they're at a presence at the conference there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Nisheet, and I also think that advisors are gonna just keep outforming the portfolio management part of the job. They're just gonna outsource it and focus on the much more value, oriented part of the business, which is like, planning, help making sure people understand, what happens in their lives and how to change their financial situation in order to better plan for the future. I think that's where the big value is going to be, going forward. But the portfolio management side, just get someone better that's much more well resourced to do that part of the job. The other thing that was really interesting to sheet was I met with several very young RIAs who started their own practices. And this is the first time, I met, I think it was 3 individuals who were, early 30s and they literally started their firms and they are a registered investment advisor trying to grow their practices. And that just kind of blew me away. Most folks are in this business, they've been in it for 30 years. I think the average age is what, 65.
It's
but to
definitely
see
welcome.
like early 30-year-olds and, they're again islands on their own trying to figure things out. And it was, every conversation I had with them, I was like, let me just connect you with folks. If you need a mentor, I know some good mentors out there. If you just want to connect with folks of your same demographic situation, happy to do that. And they loved it, man. They loved it. But it was really cool to see the young folks out.
Yeah, that's the trend we want to see, right? Because we've talked about this on this podcast. The numbers for AI for advisors, it's dwindling, right? Less people are entering the industry when we need more people to serve the clients. So you've got demand going up, supply going down. But I think what's interesting, you bring up the age, even like, we're used to seeing, even if there are advisors who are in their early to mid 30s, they're typically part of a team or like a junior FA with some bigger team. For them to branch out on their own, I think it shows you that exactly what future proof is trying to say is like, there's a tech stack out there, there's tools out there that you can use where maybe before the barriers to entry were too high to start your own RIA in your early to mid 30s, and now you can. So I think that's really welcoming for our industry. So hopefully more people see that and can enter, and maybe we get those advisor numbers, advisor headcount back up.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on the conference?
Yeah, just it's there's always a lot of buzz, right? We saw a lot of activity on LinkedIn, and when I tell people from the industry, I'm going, this probably is each year I see more and more people I know, and even this year, just at the opening reception, seeing more people from previous conferences. I think I was just really pleasantly surprised at how much bigger and more consistent it's getting, and more people are returning. And so I think it's a valuable block of time on this conference schedule, and they hit the topics right. It was all about AI, data, the intersection of that, and how to help advisors. So I was super pumped. I'm ready to do some follow-ups and see where this carries us into the next conference in September.
100% agree with you. And if you're not at a future proof conference or a future proof like conference and you're a wealth manager, a advisor, or an RIA, then you are going to be left behind when it comes to operating your business. There's so much value to be learned at the conferences that are primarily focused on engagement and communication instead of sitting there and watching a panel. There's so much value at those types of conferences that you'd be shooting yourself in the foot not going. So I encourage folks to go and learn, be open minded. It's not your typical conference. And these folks at Future Proof really, really have set up something that's going to be long lasting.
Yeah, actually saw a lot of that, just observing, teams of advisors like, okay, you go to this booth, I'm going to go to that booth. Let's connect. Or folks are really impressed and surprised to see the technology that's out there, and genuinely want to follow up and learn about some of these other companies that are presenting at booths, and that's different than your typical industry conference. So I really appreciated that excitement from the advisor perspective, and hope that this continues.
Yeah, and then you also get treated to a pretty cool concert at the end. And this year they had a collection. I forgot the other guys' names, but it was like Sugar Ray was like the opener with his band. I think one of the guys are from Tonic, and the other guys like
Tonic,
from
yeah.
Third Eye Blind.
A lot of
uh,
90s rock nostalgia.
yeah, oh yeah, they definitely hit that the '90s music scene really well. And then the like the opening act or the headliner was is it Teddy Ryan's from oh sorry Ryan Teddy from One Republic, and that was fun. He had way more hits that he wrote for other artists that he performed that we were like, whoa, we didn't know you wrote that. Like the Halo song by Beyonce. We're like, oh, you wrote that? That's funny. So they do show you a good time, from beginning to end of the conference. All right, well, that wraps up our special edition show for Inside the Flows. We'll be back to give you the regular format of a weekly recap and a special topic soon. I do want to give a shout out to Inflows for folks who went to the conference, folks who did not. If you are a advisor, wealth manager, financial planner, RA, the whole financial advisory bucket, and you are looking for a community to see, learn what other folks are doing, Inflows is a great platform to do that. Nisheet's on there. He's our Inflows contributor. he provides assistance using his 22 plus years of home office experience. And he's also a great guy to just chat with. Ask him any question that you have. I'm sure he'll be able to answer it. And, just trying to build a new community out there, and hopefully you'll be part of that. So thank you everyone for listening in to this special edition. I promise my voice will be a lot better next time. And Nisheet, it was good seeing you out at Future Proof. It was always a joy to have you out there, and being able to spend time with you in person and grab dinner and whatnot. So thanks again for all the good times, and we'll catch everybody later.
Sounds good. See you next time.